The meeting will begin in 1 minute. The meeting will begin in 1 minute.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our City Council informational meeting. This will be our last informational meeting for the year. Welcome to 2015 next year. We are going to begin with one of our reports, the audit report. We had an audit committee meeting last week. Councilor Rolfe?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the audit committee met on the 11th, Thursday, December 11th. And did many of the things that we generally do. We did have an update from Dean Bucknenberg with Ide Bailey. They're the team that is doing the audit of does the audit of the city. We have, I think it's a 3 or 5 year contract with them. They are well on their way to getting it going, and hopefully we'll have a full audit done in by the 1st of April next year, 3 months, which is, we always push them. We want that as soon as we can, and they seem to come through and get it done, so we're excited about getting that done. We also reviewed the annual audit plan for 2015. Rich put that together, and with some help from a lot of the department heads. So we'll be doing a number of audits there. And we reviewed the internal audit report, which is kind of a synopsis of what they did in 2014. They still have a couple to finish up, just the last part of it, and then we'll be meeting after the first year on that. Then we okayed a couple of continuing education trips that our auditors are going to make for continuing education. So that's what we did. Any questions?
Complete report. Thank you, Councilor Rolfe. Open discussion. Council, any discussion items?
I'll put it right up here between us.
Nothing, Councilor Jameson? Okay. Yeah. Councilor Jameson?
Are we a comedian today?
No, not at all.
Yeah, right, okay. I just wanted to update the council with a couple of things. Last Wednesday, I was at the South Dakota Municipal League Board meeting in Pierre, and we reviewed all the legislation that is getting proposed to be supported by the Municipal League. And there was only one that we rejected, that we are not in support of. And just by the way, after our meeting, the Municipal League met with the county essentially board that they have for all the counties in the state. And both the county and the Municipal League board, both boards recommended to oppose this bill. And the bill is regarding the establishment of river basin natural resource districts, which, we've all been talking about drainage and how important that is and maybe what affects it, but state law requires that the counties be in charge of that process. And what this was proposing to do is look at each kind of little drainage section, each part, each river, and I think there's 7 throughout the state that they would categorize as new basins. And then they would elect and hire new people to represent each of those districts. And then the state would then be required to fund some of those projects and help support them. The problem is all the county and city efforts that we've done regarding drainage would then be essentially no longer needed and preempted, and the authority then would lie with these unelected officials, and therein lies the bigger problem. Anyway, I've got more details here. If you want to read the bill, if you want to know more about it, just ask me. But we did those. That's the only one that we decided to oppose. The other part was one of the members of the league, Municipal League Board, is the mayor of Rapid City. And he gave me a little pamphlet on their new project out there of expanding their convention center, event center, and all that stuff, and all the details. So if anybody's interested in those things, I have a pamphlet for you. That's all I have.
They fundraising? No, never mind. Councilor Erpenbach?
That was good. You are a comedian tonight. I just wanted to clarify who's sponsoring the bill about the river basin. You don't know. It was just in a list of things that came to your board. Good to know. Thank you.
And I'm curious too, I might have missed that. So the Municipal League is opposing the bill? Okay.
My guess, it's coming from a legislator who is looking to, or the administration, somebody is looking to change the way that these basin studies are getting done, and it's a whole new level of government that both bodies agree we just don't want to be a part of it. So if you're interested in more details, I can get them.
Thank you. Other open discussion? All righty, we'll move into our presentation. Our first presentation this afternoon is on traffic signals. Some time ago, the city changed a few of the ways that we do traffic signals and went to flashing yellow at numerous intersections around town, and we're just curious the impact on that, accidents, and first I know Heath Hofteaser will be up, and I believe Chief Barthel will also present on that then. So welcome, Mr. Hofteaser.
Thanks for inviting me to come and talk to you about our traffic signals. Heath Hofteaser, Principal Traffic Engineer for the City of Sioux Falls. Let's see here. I want to start off with kind of going through some of the background of when we made these changes a little bit over a year ago. And it was, for your information too, it was October 24th, 2013 was when we made the changes at the intersections. And for the background, the request, one of the top 5 requests that traffic engineering gets on a daily basis from the public is requests to flash more traffic signals and flash them earlier or flash them later in the morning or earlier at night. That's one of the top requests that we receive. Just to give you guys a little bit of context, I've included the other 4 of the top 5 that we receive, which are also the adding stop signs at intersections, adding speed limits throughout the city, changing residential parking as in a 2-hour, no parking in front of houses, things of that nature, and also looking at adding traffic signals at locations. So along with those things, the flashing of traffic signals is one of the most requested things that we get from the public. It's something that they feel very passionate about. Our other background here, prior to October 24th, 2013, we had 139 traffic signals we were flashing in the city of Sioux Falls, which was about 56% of the signals that went to flash at night. And after we made our changes, it went to about 81% of our signals that were flashing at night. The 19% that we just did not go to flash on were due to sight distance concerns, which could be large trees and buildings at a corner that make it very hard to see what's coming from different approaches, or big vertical grades, things of that nature. And 39 of them were not flashed due to lane geometry, which is if we get to intersections that have complex dual left turns and big intersections where it could cause some, safety issues due to lane geometry. Those were the reasons that when we went to do the reset, the intersections that had those issues with them, we didn't even touch. We left those so they still operated throughout the night. To give you a little bit of context too, and how we kind of set up where we were going when we went into flash at night, we did an extensive research on the different segments of streets throughout the city. And here's just a quick cross-section of 1 point on 12 of our arterials throughout the city, so just to give you an idea of the different types of volumes that we do see throughout the city. And we tried to categorize them into groups. Like if you look at the bottom third of those, or it's really the bottom half, there's a cluster that is pretty far down on the graph that drops below 100 vehicles for every 15 minutes at about 10 o'clock at night. And those areas that fell into that category, we went into flash at 10 o'clock at night. And then we were looking at, we kind of used that 100 vehicles in a 15-minute period as a threshold when we were initially resetting the intersections on where we were, what times we were going into flash, where there was a lot of them that we had set up to still wait till 11 o'clock at night to go into flash. And then for context there too, I also have 41st Street down in the Empire Mall area where a lot of those intersections do not go into flash, and you can see that its volumes stay quite a bit higher, above 100 vehicles in a 15-minute period until well after midnight. So just to give you context on, and so you know that we did try to follow logic on where we put our break points, on where we, through a corridor, this corridor we set to 10 o'clock, and the next one we set at 11 o'clock, and we were trying to use some sound reasoning for what we did where. After we made our initial changes, we received a lot of communications from the public in regards to adjustments in flash times throughout the city. Some of it was from people that said we didn't do enough and wanted to see us do more, go into flash earlier at times, and a lot of it was from people that wanted us to look at making adjustments to go into flash later at different locations. Some of the specific things that we ended up doing, and actually two areas around what was the arena complex at the time, and now it includes the event center also. A lot of those intersections, we have them set up so they do not go into flash until midnight, because you have a lot of different types of events that go later into the evening, and it's hard to predict when some of them get done. And then also, it's at Madison and Louise, and then at 12th and Lyons, the two signals that lead out of the fairgrounds. Those intersections are also set up to not go into flash until midnight, because there's a lot of different concerts and things that happen at times at the fairgrounds, and in case we don't know something that's going on, we want to make sure that we're providing safe opportunities for the public at those locations. Some of the other things that we made adjustments to, or that we observed, was that in the area of South Main Avenue in the downtown, and then along 14th Street, in regards to the pavilion, we had to link initially, a lot of the downtown, we were going into flash at 10 o'clock because the volumes were very low. But the events at the pavilion have dictated that we've went to a later date, or a later time at night when we're going to flash on those locations too, just because of the difficulties that are caused with people getting out of the events at the pavilion, getting back to their cars, and getting out of the downtown. And then also, we've done a little bit around the Orpheum from that same standpoint, and then down on 49th Street by the district, we've also had some of those 49th Street signals. We've had to set those to go into flash later at night also, due to the events that get out fairly late at the district and have a lot of traffic. So it's there's a lot of adjustments we've been making for the different things that we're seeing throughout the city. Some of the other things that we've had to do is we've had to come out of flash earlier in areas where we found that we had pedestrians that were struggling to cross intersections. A great example of this is at 10th and Cleveland. There was a lot of people that at 10th and Cleveland, when we were coming out of flash at 6 a.m., they were going to businesses where they had to be there by 6 a.m. and they were walking, and they were having a really difficult time at that intersection. So that intersection, when we rolled back to its older flash time where it came out of flash at 5 o'clock so that the people could get through the intersection safely so they could get to work. So there's a lot of things like that we've been working with the public on throughout the city to try to accommodate everybody the best we can, yet still keep traffic moving with the flashing signals. One of the other specific events that we've identified is on the 4th of July on Kiwanis Avenue. We had issues at 22nd Street and Kiwanis Avenue where there's a lot of people that go sit on that hill to watch the fireworks at the fairgrounds. And then the changes that we'd made when we went back to, when we'd made the changes in the flash time, when the fireworks got done at the fairgrounds, they had a real struggle trying to cross Kiwanis Avenue to get back to their homes on the other side of Kiwanis Avenue. So that's for that particular intersection. Some of them like that, different specific events that we've identified, we'll go in and put a 1 day out of the year type event that where on the 4th of July every year at 22nd Kiwanis, the intersection's not going to go into flash till midnight instead, so that it accommodates those people and they can cross the street to get home. So there's a lot of different things like that that we've been having to do throughout the city with these changes that we've made. And I think right here, this is the slide that everybody's probably the most interested in. And we looked at it a lot of different ways, and I think this is the way we put it here is the best way to get the information. It's we broke it down to crashes per day at traffic signals during the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. time period. So we're looking at all the intersections, all the traffic signals in the city of Sioux Falls in that time period where we're typically flashing the intersections, and how many total crashes are occurring at night, or during that time period at night at our signalized intersections. And the first column is the 1 year period prior to us making our changes, where we have 0.23 crashes per day at night, or it sounds bad saying per day at night, but every 24-hour during the night, each night period, we'd have 0.23 crashes throughout the city. When we first initially made our changes at the intersections where we brought in a lot more flashing signals, we increased to 0.43 crashes for each day. And then it was after approximately 100 days, we had our first meeting where traffic engineering got together with the police, and we started identifying where crashes were occurring and implementing the changes that were being requested by the public. And then in the next 100-day period, we saw the decrease where it went down to 0.41 crashes, just a slight decrease in the number of crashes that are occurring per day. And then after that second 100-day period, actually it was more like 100, it was a little bit more than 100 days on that one, where when we got together and we started looking at the differences and where the crashes were occurring and looking at some bigger changes. And a lot of the changes we were looking at when we're looking specifically at these crashes is like at, say, 26th Street and Minnesota Avenue, we saw a large cluster of crashes that were occurring at like 11:30, 11:15, 11:40 at night. So at that particular intersection, it had always went into flash at midnight prior, so we went back to midnight at that intersection. So there's a lot of things that we've started doing like that with the intersections. Then after we've made those changes, in this last period of time that we've looked at, we've seen that we've decreased to 0.32 crashes per day. And so we're seeing that it's between the adjustments that we've been making to flash times, and as drivers have been getting more used to the flashing and what's going on, we're seeing that the crashes are reducing out at the intersections. We're making more changes. We're still getting together. We'll be getting together with police again to review the last period of time to see what other changes we should be making to try to, we're always trying to minimize our crashes and try to improve things for the driver. But the one thing, it's interesting, every time we make a change at one of these intersections and we go from 11 o'clock at night to midnight, that little flash change, that turns on the phones, and we get the calls from the public that they're hey, or what I want to say, they're noticing that the driver, the people that have been calling us and asking us for flashing the intersections have been trying to make it known that they see it when we change the flash times back to, start rolling them back, and they want us to be very cognizant of minimizing how much we're doing that. So we're trying to look to see where it needs to be done to minimize crashes and work hand in hand with the police to try to do that. We have some other ideas as we're moving forward. One of the things we want to look at is the expansion of using reflective backplates. You might have seen those. I have them on the slide in front of you right now. On the left is a traffic signal with the reflective backplates on it, and on the right's one without the reflective backplate on it. And it's a lot of the locations that we are using these right now in the city of Sioux Falls. They're in the downtown areas where we have signals that are just on the side of the intersection, and they're being done because we have red light running problems at those intersections, and it's trying to draw people's attention to them to notice them better. But then in this situation at night, as far as with flashing signals, what it does is the reflective backplates help people that are colorblind immensely on trying to put a target value on where is that flashing signal inside the rectangle, and is it flashing yellow or is it flashing red? So that's something that has a lot of value, we think. We're going to start probably rolling that out some more at some of our intersections. And one of the other things we've been considering is some of the spots where we're seeing the crashes, where we're seeing some crashes start to develop, that instead of making major changes to the flash times, that maybe what we need to do in them is go to a red flash instead of a yellow-red flash in some situations, which is a situation where we're flashing red for all directions. Everybody has to pull up, stop, look for an opening, and then pull through the intersection, which, you know, in some situations that might be the best of both worlds, minimizing delay and making it a safe intersection for people. So that's some of the things that we're looking at. And one thing I want to bring to your attention too on this chart here too, when we're looking at these are fairly small sample sizes. We don't have a lot of crashes that do occur during these time periods at night. So, you know, it's something that we have to take with a grain of salt, the type of information that we get here. But it's something that we are tracking and keeping track of, and we'll continue to look at. One of the things that I was concerned with is, you know, these different time periods. Is the winter a reason versus the summer or the spring to have a major difference in the number of crashes per day? So we also, the October 2012 to 2013 period, we broke that down into identical periods that we have for these, or for the other three periods up on the chart, which I don't have it showing because it just gets really busy when we have a lot more things on the chart. But the crashes per day for the three different periods throughout the year were all between 0.2 and 0.25. So I think that it's pretty representative, the 0.23 as a representative of what we saw for crashes throughout the entire year for the year prior. So it's a lot of information I give you guys. We have a lot more I can talk about, but I'm opening it up to questions you have, anything you want to know about what we're doing and what we're seeing. I think the chief's here willing to talk about it too. So,
Councilors? Councilor Kiley.
Heath, I'm especially appreciative of the reflective backplates because I'm one of those individuals that's colorblind. And actually, approximately 1 out of every 9 males are colorblind, and then a smaller percentage of females. And one of the issues with the flashing light is at nighttime, it is difficult to differentiate its location, whether it's on the extreme left or if it's on the top or in the center. So this does greatly assist in that situation. Obviously, you should be approaching the intersection with caution, regardless whether it's flashing yellow or flashing red, and be prepared to stop if necessary. But this helps out considerably. So I'd like to see that expanded.
Councilor Rolfing.
I just want to thank you for doing this work, because I know that some of us did have some real questions about the safety issue of these flashing lights, and some of your ideas of going to red make perfect sense, and working together with the police department. This gives me a lot better feeling that, you know, we're on top of it, we know what we're doing, and I knew that, but it gives everybody that feeling of security also. So thank you for informing us.
Councilor Jameson.
Yes, Heath, thank you. We had, when this change first occurred, I had heard from others, and I could tell that there were problems, and I think your chart tells that there were problems, and you and your staff are working hard on every minute detail, and I think listening to the public very well and implementing those changes very well. I think that's great. I would also have to add that the flashing yellow is just dangerous. I mean, I get it. A lot of us get it. But a lot of people just think that's a free pass. And they go, I would urge you to go more flashing red and then do some PSAs, because some people don't even get that. They stop. They don't know that they can go. They just stop and they sit there. But some PSAs on this whole process might help people become more informed about how to go through these intersections. People I talk to love it when they go flashing. And some want it, like you say, sooner or later. There's a lot of that. And I think you're doing a fine job of listening and implementing those changes. But the flashing yellow is just dangerous. That's all.
Councilor Erickson.
Thank you for the report, Heath. I just have a couple questions, if I could. One of the ideas of the reflective backing, which I like that idea as well. I think that's great. Would you have an estimation of the cost of that by chance?
It's fairly cheap. It's the same sign material we use for making our signs at our sign shop. So we just cut strips of it into 3-inch strips, and then our signal technicians go up and apply it to the back plates.
Perfect.
So
Great solution that's very inexpensive to help those that are traveling through the intersections. The other thing is just as I look at the crashes as they've gone up and then back down, the benefits of the flashing lights, moving traffic, it's not as busy. But if our crashes are going up, for me, that's not, so what? Slow down if it's going to kill somebody because the lights are flashing and we're moving people at a different pace. My question, though, is how many of these crashes are deadly? Are they fender benders? Is there any breakout of some of these?
I don't have it with me, but it's...
and how many include alcohol? I mean, it's, in the wee hours, are they alcohol related?
Yeah, it's about, at these intersections, it's about 30% that are what I would consider T-bone angle type crashes that are the severe crashes, and that holds for that before period and all the after periods. That's the same throughout. And then it's also alcohol. We're seeing that number is fluctuating as we're going through these different periods, but it's anywhere from 30 to 50% of the crashes are alcohol related too.
As we go from a year to another year, our population goes up, so we have to put that into relationship with the crash numbers as well. If you have a higher number of population, crashes might go up a little bit higher. I'd be curious to know too, with the crashes, how many of them are red coming with yellow flashing, like Councilor Jameson said?
Yeah,
is it the yellow that's always getting smoked by the guy with the red, or vice versa?
We can sure provide that for everybody. So we've got most of it, and it came down to when we started putting everything into the report. It got real busy with graphs and everything, so we tried to simplify it.
And the main number I would love to see is the crashes based on red versus yellow. If the issue is red and yellow, am I making sense?
Yep,
I don't know.
I know exactly.
But that's where I'd be interested to see if that's really the issue. If it just needs to go red on red.
Yep, we can sure provide that. So
perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Kiley?
Yeah, I think what would really be telling is if you had a graph prior to the light going flashing, whether it was a flashing red or yellow red. I mean, this is showing us the number of crashes
at night
during that period at night. Okay, what was it for the intersection before we implemented the flashing light?
Well, and that's where we were struggling with. Our sample sizes are so small here with the number of intersections that it's we've got 1 year of data now, so it's the data is starting to build up enough that we can do a little bit more robust crash analysis. The tricky thing with crash analysis is at intersections, it's to be considered real good. You're looking at least 3 years of before data, 3 years of after data, and we're going to go and get more before data too. But we've only got so much after data, so we didn't want to prepare or dig into.
Because as it is now, the graph that you have, it's 0.332.
Yep.
It could potentially be 0.32 if they aren't flashing.
Yep.
We don't know.
Can you bring that graph back up, Keith?
Yep.
Prior to October 13, they weren't flashing, correct?
Yeah, the first bar, that's at that 0.23. That's the 139 intersections were flashing, and the other
okay, some were,
other
some
64
weren't. That's when
were.
you made the change.
That's the change is between the first bar and the second bar is when the 64 traffic signals started to flash.
I'd like to pipe in here a little bit on this.
No.
I look at this statistically, and the number of crashes doubled. You can call it a small sample, but it about doubled. And it's still 50% higher today than it was, almost 50% higher than it was a year ago. You know, about 6 weeks ago, I was on the corner of Minnesota and 33rd Street at 11:15, and I saw people trying to cross Minnesota Avenue that were taking chances. And I saw people on Minnesota Avenue going a lot faster than they should have been because of the flashing yellow light, like Councilor Jameson was saying. I almost saw a pretty serious accident, and that's, you know, to Councilor Erickson's question. It's not the frequency maybe as much, but is the severity changing? And I look at this and I think 11 o'clock at night on Minnesota Avenue at some of our major intersections is way too early. Where can I cross Minnesota Avenue after 11 o'clock at night that doesn't have a flashing intersection?
14th Street. It's got geometry issues there. So 14th Street's one spot and 41st Street, but 14th Street to 41st Street is open after midnight. 26th in Minnesota doesn't go into flash until midnight now.
Okay, so it's quite a long
ways.
People start picking up speed pretty quick when they don't have to slow down or stop at some of those intersections. And frequency and severity are two things. I can see we have a frequency problem, and I'd be willing to bet we have a severity problem when it comes to these accidents also. And I look at 11 o'clock flashing intersections on Minnesota, 41st Street, some of our main streets at 11 o'clock, and I'm thinking that's just way too early. And I don't know what it takes to change that or how we can encourage change to that, but I look at that, and then last week we had a presentation and I can't remember who did it, might have been Jim David. You know, our streets are built not only to move traffic, but sometimes to slow it down too. And that was one of the points. And I know people like to get from point A to point B as quickly as they can, but sometimes when we start having people taking risks that they shouldn't be taking because...
Yeah, and I think that working with police on identifying the key locations to put the red, or, you know, to work on putting in red flash instead is maybe a major thing towards not having long corridors that are just yellow the whole way.
Councilor Erpenbach.
I guess I just wanted to add to that too. I don't want to micromanage stoplights from up here, but I do. What I appreciate, Heath, and what you have done for us this afternoon is you have shown us where you've looked very closely at those specific incidences that are special. I would never have thought of Kiwanis on the 4th of July. Brilliant. And now what I'm hearing from Councilor Karski is, and I said it to Councilor Kiley just on the side, is that 33rd in Minnesota is pretty close to my house. It's also very close to some higher education campuses and some places that serve alcohol. And there is a lot of pedestrian traffic after the bars close. And so maybe that's one of those special cases that we need to be thinking about. And I'm just going to toss that to you, let you guys handle it. But I would encourage you to continue to think about those special cases that are kind of, we need to kind of bend the, because originally, I mean, honestly, the original plan here was to move traffic faster. We want the lights to flash so we can get home faster after whatever we've been at late at night, after work or whatever. That was the goal, and that's what's happening. So now we need to look at those special cases and just be careful.
Councilor Jameson?
Heath, you really are doing a good job. Don't let us beat you down. It's pretty difficult. It's amazing that you know all these intersections as well as you do. That just shows me that you're really into this. But it does bring up a question that Councilor Karski brought up. Well, first off, two things. I think everybody has a street light that owns them. I have one that owns me. I mean, I can't believe it. It's like there's some magnetism about. Yeah, and that app that you gave me that gives me all those green lights. You know, how it doesn't work on that intersection, but anyway, everybody that I talk to seems to have one intersection or so that just kills them. And if they know they can reach you and discuss it with you, I think that gives them an opportunity to maybe ease their pain in their daily commute. And the whole idea is to save time and money, and it does that with some of these flashing lights. But the question comes, who and how do you make decisions about changing these flashing? I mean, you are affecting, obviously you've affected outcomes here, so the decision to change a light from flashing at 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, how does that work, and who has the authority, and how do you make those decisions?
As far as being able to go and make it, it's making the actual physical change. There's just a couple of computers in the city that are tied into the system, mine and a couple of staff members that can make the changes. As far as when we're making the changes to the flash programs, usually we're looking at the last couple of months, what's happened on the crashes. We're getting together with the police officers, Lieutenant Lubers quite a bit, and the chief also, and Mark Cotter we've talked to at times too on some of this. It depends on exactly what we're doing. The special events, the special cases where it's very obvious what we need to do, I'm making those decisions that we need to make this change, and we're going out and we're implementing it. The ones that are more, we're looking at, it's difficult, or like what we're talking, the 33rd in Minnesota, that's probably one that we'll get together with the police and talk about, on the corridors like Minnesota Avenue. We're going at 11 o'clock at a lot of these intersections. Should we be going at midnight at some of them instead? Or in the situation where there's maybe pedestrian traffic after the bars, maybe it should be even later. It's in those situations, a lot of times we're getting together with the chief, Lieutenant Lubers, and we're making those decisions as a group. So,
Councilor Anderson?
Heath, Constable from Bach, I thought came real close to the question I wanted to ask. And all these light changes that we're making, whether it's on Minnesota 41st, East 26th Street, were done to increase the traffic speeds. I'd like to see more information on how those speeds are increasing on those corridors. I think that would be quite interesting.
we can certainly get that information together. So.
Thank you.
All righty. Council, thank you. Thank you, Heath. Appreciate it. I know it's a work in progress, and we do appreciate the work you do. You
Yep.
quite a few hats you wear. All righty. What everybody's been waiting for, our monthly financial report. Director Turbach.
Tracy Turbach with the Finance Office. So it's the last informational of the year. Kind of hard to believe, and I know it's long been customary to save the best for the last, or best for last, so it's very gratifying that you've asked me to be last today. November monthly financial, the unemployment rate, it's pretty clear we're going to end 2014 well below 3%. We're currently, or most recently for October, at 2.5% in our Sioux Falls MSA, compared to 2.8% for the state of South Dakota and 5.5% nationally. 1 year ago, we were at 2.9% here in Sioux Falls, and 2 years ago it was at 3.4%. So you can see it has certainly come down significantly over the last couple of years. Building permit activity. We've got one more month to go on this this year-to-date graphic. Every month for the last 10 months, you've seen that 2014 year-to-date figures were lagging just slightly behind last year. And November was a very big month in permitting, and you can see that we did actually squeak ahead of the first 11 months of last year. So again, very, very good year of building, or high level of activity with building permits. Through November, we've issued $568.6 million in building permits this year. That's up 1.5% over last year at this point. Last year was at a little over $560 million. Our general sales tax revenues are growing at 5.3%, or have over the last 12 months. You can see what they've done over the last couple of years or so on that rolling 12-month basis. We did budget 5% growth for 2014, so we're looking like we'll hit our budget target for this year. Entertainment taxes are growing a little bit faster. We're at 5.8% over the last 12 months. Here again, we did budget 2014 at a 5% growth rate. So we certainly expect to be at or above our budget by the time the final payments come in for 2014. Looking at general fund revenues and expenses, year to date, we've collected or recognized 89% of the revenues that we budgeted to get in 2014. Last year, we were percentage-wise significantly higher than that. We were at 95%. I mentioned last month that we did, of course, last year in 2013, as a result of the ice storm, receive FEMA payments that were not in the original budget. And then, of course, our sales taxes were growing significantly higher than what had been budgeted in 13, whereas this year we're just slightly ahead of budget. We are projecting the final general fund revenues to come in at about $1.5 million, or a little more than 1% over budget, over what we had estimated originally. On the expenditure side for the general fund, we've expended 87% of the budget. That's exactly the rate that we had spent our budget through November of last year, so pretty much a mirror image of last year in that regard. And our general fund, we are projecting year-end expenditures to be below budget by about 1.9 million, or again, just a little over 1%, about 1.3%. So that's the kind of the recap on the general fund. In this month's financial overview section of the monthly report, we did provide a write-up on city debt. If you haven't had a chance to look at that yet, I'll mention just a couple items you'll see in there. The current debt, or as of the end of November, of the city is at about $363 million. That's down $21 million from where we started the year. And that's fairly typical. Looking forward, we will be paying off about $25 million a year in principal. And notably in 2014, in fact, just last month, the final bonds were paid on the Convention Center and Pavilion bonds. We will also pay off fully one of our SRF loans for the landfill. And then we also had a long-term lease purchase agreement for the City Hall Annex that will be paid off by the end of the year as well. Over the next 5 years, looking ahead, and this is something I've shared with you before, but I think it's important to understand that over the next 5 years, out of that $363 million of debt that's currently outstanding, we will pay off about a third of that in just the next 5 years. So just a few little items I thought were noteworthy in our write-up, but certainly happy to answer any questions you folks have today on that or anything else.
Council. Councilor Alford.
Tracy, I'm still a bit afraid of the 6% increase we projected for 2016 budget or 15 budget. When these are coming in at 5 and 5.35, well, the 5.3, do you see that as a problem? I guess would be one way to put it.
Well, it's certainly something that we have been and will continue to watch very, very closely. I wouldn't put any flashing yellow lights on that presentation just yet. But it's certainly, we'd much rather see it heading up towards the 8% like we were a year ago. Again, I mean, that's just something we can continue to monitor. Early this year, you recall, January and February, we had some extreme cold weather, so I think we started out a little bit behind the 8 ball very early in the year, and we just never seemed to have picked up the pace and recovered from that. I think we're certainly enjoying some very nice weather so far this winter. We'll see how the Christmas shopping season goes. That's obviously a key thing for how we start out next year. My crystal ball isn't any better today than it was a month ago, so we'll just continue to monitor it. Know that we've got, we will certainly expect to come in a little over budget this year, which provides us a little more of a cushion starting out next year, just like the 8% growth in 13 provided us a cushion this year.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on it also with that. One more if I could. Your actual revenue at budget at 136.9, 140 on expenditures, or about 3.8 million difference on there. We're making that up with what?
You're looking at,
On the second page in front, your revenue analysis says 136,987 million for the budget on revenue, and 140 on the expenditures, 140.8.
for the
So
budget
what?
numbers.
Those are budget numbers,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
We're under that at this point, and, okay.
Through November, for the first 11 months of the year, we're about $500,000 ahead. In other words, our revenues have
Right.
exceeded expenses by about $500,000. Now, by the end of the year, I expect that there's certainly a good chance that will flip-flop a little bit, but I don't see it moving huge
Okay,
numbers.
that's what I want to know. Thank you.
Councilor Jameson?
Just a question that popped in my head when Councilor Rolfing was asking about the budgeted 6%. I just remember being here one year when we were towards the end of the year and we saw the economy changing drastically, but there were a lot of political pressures that were trying to change that budgeted amount. Nobody did. And then 09 came and it showed us just what the numbers were. But the real question here for me is, if we budget 6%, it comes in at 5%. The difference is, do you have any idea of estimating just how much money the difference would be if we came in at 5% instead of the budget 6%?
Well, the 1% sales tax generates a little over $50 million for the general fund. So a 1% difference would be about $500,000.
$500,000. Right, and so it does get, somewhat manageable, I guess is the point I was trying to get to. Is,
Yep.
And if you get that crystal ball cleared up, let me know.
If I could, Tracy, just refresh my memory. How much were we expected to take out of our surplus with this budget cycle for the 2014? We're looking to spend some of our excess money down with this budget, weren't we?
The budget was based on about $3.8 to $3.9 million of fund balance, our reserve used.
Reserves.
And
Are we going to be using that? Are we going to be doing that this year?
No, we certainly won't use everything that was anticipated as part of the budget. I think the projections that we provided last month would indicate that, might be somewhere around $500,000.
$500,000, okay.
But that's, there's time to go yet, and weather is certainly the biggest factor in that could easily tip several $100,000 one way or the other.
Okay. Other questions? All righty. Thank you very much, Tracy.
My pleasure. You all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
See you next year, yeah. That takes care of our agenda. Our next meeting is at 7 o'clock, our regular city council meeting, and we will not have an informational meeting again until next year. I believe January 5, is it? It's right around there anyway. First Tuesday in January. This meeting's adjourned.